Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome to the Live with Leslie live stream. And gosh, today I'm super excited. This is really an awesome topic, and I think you guys are going to get just a ton of value. And we have the pleasure of having Angela Manderfeld from Outsmart Your Diabetes with us here today. And so today we are going to be talking about the myths that Angela constantly hears from both clients, patients, providers, pretty much across the board that are simply not true. So today is all about diabetes myths busted, what works and what doesn't. So really looking forward to our chat today. And for those of you that don't know me, welcome. My name is Lesli Bitel, and I am a business strategist and coach. And I help health and wellness entrepreneurs who want to attract more clients, sell more programs, and ultimately grow a profitable private practice while integrating multiple streams of income into their business model. So again, welcome those of you that are joining us live, as well as those of you that are catching us on the replay. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Angela, welcome. So happy to have you here with me today. Such an exciting topic, one that really seems to be gaining momentum. I don't know what's happening in the world. Is it... I can't decide if it's because I'm more aware, when you're aware of something, you just kind of see it everywhere, or if it truly is gaining momentum. I think it's the latter, but what do you think?
I think it's a little bit of both, but yeah, definitely, with, continuous glucose monitors on the rise, people are just becoming more aware of their energy and their blood sugar level. And even people without diabetes are finding, some of that information useful now. So yeah, it's definitely picking up momentum.
Great. It's a good thing. So why don't we kick things off for those for people in our audience that maybe don't know you? Would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and really curious about how you became so devoted to helping people with blood sugar issues. Tell us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah, my backstory is I just always wanted to work outpatient as a dietitian, and I started off in a diabetes and nutrition program. But even prior to that, I have a strong family history of diabetes. Both my grandparents on my mom's side had it. My mom has diabetes. She's been able to reverse hers, which is good. But I remember sitting in the basement with my grandpa at his computer, and we have these Excel spreadsheets, and we're entering in his blood sugars and making graphs so he can take these to his doctor. And he really felt good about, getting these graphs. If he's passed on now, but if he was alive today, I really do think he would just eat up the continuous glucose monitor, because he loved to do that.
Right?
Yeah. And diabetes is near and dear to my heart.
Yes, you've got a strong family history, and you helped your grandfather out, so that makes a ton of sense. And also you have a book, right? Tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, my book, Outsmart Your Diabetes. It's available on Amazon. I was so excited during COVID is when this got written finally. And
that's great. Congrats. You're an author. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so available on Amazon. Are there recipes in it?
No recipes.
Okay, no recipes.
Not so tell us no recipes. And there's a reason for that. There's a big reason for not putting recipes in there, because as you go through the book, it shows you how to individualize nutrition to you. So there's not one style of eating that you subscribe to. You have to really look within, pay attention to your body, look at your CGM, and figure out what style of eating works best.
Okay. All right. So Outsmart Your Diabetes on Amazon. I'll have to check that out myself. All right. So let's dig right into some of those myths that you commonly hear. So what would you say maybe one or two of those biggest myths are when it comes to diabetes in general?
So I was doing a little lip reading because I lost you there for a minute, but
Oh
I think you
no!
asked me. I think you asked me what was one of the biggest myths that I've been hearing about in diabetes.
Yes, that is
Is
right. I'd love to know, guys.
okay, cool.
Am I cutting in and out? Just give me a yes or a no. I don't know what.
I hope
It's like
maybe it's just me,
my
but yeah.
microphone is on. Guys, let me know if I'm cutting in and out. And if I am, I don't know what I'll do about it, but at least I'll know. Okay, sounds
I'm
good.
a really good lip reader.
Part of your education, right?
It's
Like,
part of my education, yeah.
all right. So someone
Well,
said it sounds good. So fingers
it
crossed
does
that
sound good.
you guys can hear me. All right. And if
Okay,
not,
perfect.
you'll have to, I guess, learn lip reading as well, right?
Yes.
Because I don't know what the solution is. All right.
That's
So,
okay. So one of the biggest myths. So I would say, what people are seeing on social media, YouTube, Google, whatever, is that the only way to reverse diabetes is keto. And don't get me wrong, like it makes sense. Oh, if you take out the thing that makes your blood sugar increase, then your blood sugar goes down. But in practice, I've found that you don't have to be overly restrictive to actually reverse diabetes. And,
okay.
I am all about keto. Like keto definitely has its place and it's a very therapeutic style of eating for some
Mhm.
people. But what I found is people that benefit the most from keto usually have a pretty strong why or a reason why they need to follow keto. People
Okay.
that have diabetes, like their energy might feel a little bit low. But there's nothing like crazy glaring, like they can't get out of bed in the morning or they can't move or walk or they don't have anything that severe. So sometimes making a really severe diet change can
Mhm.
be like and they don't even want to start because they already think, oh, this is going to ruin my life and I don't even want to go there.
Right. They think it's not worth it.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the biggest myths is that it has to be an extreme diet change. I just had a patient who I've been working with for the past month or so. She came to me. She had 100 pounds of water weight in addition to being overweight. So
Oh
she was
my
upwards of 300 plus pounds.
100
She was
pounds
the
of water weight?
100 pounds of water weight.
How is that even
Yeah.
possible?
I have no idea. This is what she tells me. So I
Wow.
believe her.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, she's lost about 50 pounds. So I
Okay.
have to assume part of that's water weight
Right.
just working together. But we went from 22 units of insulin every day to now she doesn't need the insulin and she's even getting ready to stop her SGLT2 inhibitor. So, you know,
Oh,
that was just with food because she can't stand for very long. She's seated most of the day. We just made food changes, and I guarantee you it wasn't keto. And her blood sugar has dropped. Instead of the 300s, her fastings are 100, and she's not on insulin anymore.
wow.
So,
Amazing.
yeah. So,
And so many
diet is very impactful, and it
yeah,
doesn't have to be overly
it doesn't
restrictive.
have to be crazy. Yeah, because I mean, being a carb lover myself, it'd be so hard. I can't it to be just in ketosis over the long haul. I can't. I honestly can't picture that for most people. Certainly not for myself. And I'm sure there are some potential repercussions around that as well, right? Um,
Yeah.
Lots of things that, and do you see things like that in your practice?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
So
all the
what are
time.
some of the what are some of the downfalls that you're seeing with people that really try to go extreme? What happens that afterwards?
I mean, at first they do it and they're so excited and they feel so proud of themselves and they're like, okay, everything's perfect.
Yeah.
But then one of two things happen. Either they're like, oh, everything's perfect. This is gone. I don't have to deal with this anymore. And then they go back to what they're doing and things get out of control again. Or they feel so restricted with their food choices that they're not even enjoying life as much. And
Uh-huh.
it makes it more challenging, even social events. It's more challenging. And if their family's not on board, it's more challenging. So they can only sustain it for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds really, really tough.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so, all right. So there's lots of schools of thoughts when it comes to nutrition and diabetes. So what would you say is the biggest myth around the nutrition part?
Yeah. So I think the biggest myth is, that there's one type of diabetic diet, which I hate that word.
Yeah,
People, put people that would have diabetes into this category and, oh, you have to eat a certain way. So they're telling them they have to eat sugar free, they have to, eat light foods, use artificial sweeteners.
right,
I've even had patients come to me being told they're supposed to eat 6 times a day, always have a snack before bed. Like there's some crazy nonsense out there.
right.
Um, and, I think the biggest takeaway from today is diabetes nutrition has to be individualized to the person. There's so many different things that go into that, like some of that we talked about, like what is their lifestyle like, what is their work schedule like, what
Mhm.
is their family life like, what are their genetics. There's certain genetic genotypes where people have to eat a certain way. Maybe they have to avoid gluten to decrease their risk of heart attack, or maybe they need to eat more vegetarian to again decrease their risk of heart attack. So there's so many different things that go into an eating plan that we really do need to take the time to sit down with them and individualize it. Because in a doctor's office, like doctors have a couple minutes with a patient, so to throw out like, hey, go do keto, get your blood sugar down, like that's easy for them to say, and we certainly can't fault them for that. But nutrition is a huge deal. You can't give a two-liner sentence on the patient's way out the door and expect them to leave and fix it all and be perfect. Um, and one last thing I want to throw in here is, a lot of times when people's blood sugars have gotten so high and we say, oh, do keto or do whatever, and
Mhm.
people go out and do that and they're on medications, what
Yes.
ends up happening is their sugar comes down fast because they do make these
Oh,
diet changes. And
okay.
now it's going down too low. And, PTSD is a big word to throw around, but I will tell you, I have had a lot of patients with kind of some trauma experiences
Really?
around having severe low blood sugars. Then they get very scared of it. And
Okay.
now they're feeding their medicine. They're like, I'm not doing that again. I know if I don't eat a certain amount of carbs, I'm going to get too low. And that does not make sense to me. So we need to be teaching patients how to adjust their medications when they're using food for medicine. And I think that's one of the things that us as dietitians and functional nutrition or medicine providers,
Right.
that's where we can really shine and help our patients to truly be successful and to come off of medicine and have that happen for the long term instead of, get freaked out after they do the keto and they had a blood sugar in the 50s.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be super scary. I can see
definitely.
why that would be, traumatizing for them and something that they want to avoid at all costs. Okay. So let's talk about let's talk about fasting. I think that is going to be a really interesting topic to delve into because we're hearing a lot about intermittent fasting, right? And I'd love to get your insight and your thoughts around, you know, intermittent fasting in general and how helpful it is. Is it helpful to help that diabetic client, or is it kind of a myth? Is it kind of one of those trendy diet protocols that we're starting to see more of now? What are your thoughts around that, Angela?
Yeah. So at first, it seemed very trendy. Everybody's doing intermittent fasting.
Yep.
But, you know, with diabetes is a gut bacteria problem.
Oh,
We've
let's.
got an imbalance of gut bacteria. So
Okay.
here's the cool thing about fasting can increase akkermansia.
Okay.
So I'm doing the short word because akkermansia municiphala is a
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
very
Big
big
long.
word, and I can't.
Okay. So
Yeah,
basically, it's a gut bacteria. Good
it's a gut bacteria.
job.
So when you fast, you can increase the good gut bacteria.
Okay.
Um, when you have that good gut bacteria, it's also producing something called butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid. And
Yes.
that actually helps heal the gut
Okay.
and it improves insulin sensitivity. So while people are thinking, oh, well, I fast, I go without food, I don't have sugar in my body, so my sugar comes down. there's way more to it than just that. Like
Okay.
fasting is a very useful tool, and it only takes like maybe 13 hours from dinner to breakfast of no food, no calories going in
Okay.
to help improve gut health. Now, some people will extend that fast. Maybe they go up to 15 hours or 17 hours and they can get a little bit better benefit, with the immune function, immune health. Again, more insulin sensitivity there, and just helping cells in general. But it only takes 13 hours. And
Okay.
most people, if they put their mind to it, can do that pretty
Oh, yeah,
easily.
I would think. Yeah,
Yeah.
13 hours isn't too terrible of a stretch, I would think, for
Yeah.
most people. But I'm
Yeah.
sure they need to be very cognizant of it because it's so easy to, snack at night and, just like graze and not even really think about it. Now, a little off the cuff, but what are your thoughts around fast? Is it the fast mimicking diet? I think there's some companies out there like Prolon is one that is coming up for me in my memory. Do you
Mhm.
have an opinion around that? Because that's a little bit more intense, right? It's like a 5 day. I think they're offering options now, like a 3 or 5 day, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not
Yeah.
100% fasting. It's like it's eating specific foods. I think it adds up to around 500 calories a day. Do you have
Right.
opinion around that in terms of, healing the gut? And I really want to dig more into it being a microbiome issue. That's super
Yeah.
fascinating. So yeah, tell
No,
me your thoughts around that.
I don't use the Prolon. I am not against it. I think it can be helpful. I think sometimes it's cost prohibitive for some patients.
Yeah.
And then there is still that commitment there of like, okay, this is all I get to eat, and it can be a little bit restrictive. So, if we have, and I guess I just haven't really seen the need for it yet. Like when people
Okay.
start doing the 13-hour fast and then they extend to the 17,
Okay.
occasionally I'll have somebody do a 24-hour fast.
Okay.
But I absolutely don't have anything against it. I actually think it is a really good idea for gut health and gut healing. Um, but I also think, my motto is keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're seeing results with a less intensive approach, then why not? Right.
Yeah.
So,
But there are patients out there who want to see faster results, who really want to
yeah.
dive in, and maybe they have more problems than just diabetes. Maybe they have some other gut stuff going on that it makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, I'm all for that.
Now, I'm trying to think through the physiology behind why fasting would improve the gut microbiome. Or am I making too big of a leap here? Like in logic.
I'm missing a little bit of what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, I'm just is it so the intermittent fasting, is it healing
Oops.
the gut or is it improving microbiome or both?
Yeah, so it's doing a lot of all of the above. It does help to heal the gut. So when your body's not constantly having to digest food, it
Yeah.
has more time and energy to focus, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Your guts can focus solely on healing, improving the immune system,
Okay.
um, getting rid of cells that are not as functional and creating new cells and improving mitochondria function. So, fasting is definitely more than just weight loss and and
Right.
giving away food to maintain blood sugar. So that's where a lot of people will find like just a 24-hour fast once a month
Okay.
can really help improve things. Now, people that are on diabetes medicine still have to be careful with that. So
Yeah.
I usually tell people don't do your 24-hour fast until we've, got a better handle, especially if they're on insulin.
Right.
We'd like to get to a point where we can mostly get off of that.
Okay.
Um, and one thing I tell people is, hey, your goal is to get to 10 units. Once you get to 10 units of insulin, you can get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. Now, obviously, I say this, and I'm working with their provider
Right.
as
Right.
well. Like, it's not just me saying stop your medicines.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So I just do a little disclaimer there. I do have a relationship with the provider. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. So, and I another question kind of out of curiosity. So, someone that doesn't have diabetes, right? Who's, relatively healthy, but trying to maybe improve their glucose control, maybe reduce the spikes, maybe improve that microbiome, right? To really become healthier. Okay, so if you fast for 24 hours, you're going to be pretty hungry, right?
Maybe,
Most
maybe
people.
not.
I
Yeah.
probably would. I'm
Yeah.
guessing. I get pretty hungry. I'm wondering, so it's kind of like if I were to do it, it would be mind over matter, right? Like I'd have to kind of psych myself up. What like with a CGM on, which I am wearing, how low, like, does someone like myself who's healthy, do we have to worry about the blood sugar dipping too low in that 24-hour period? Not
No.
really. No. Okay.
No. I mean, some people that don't have diabetes that are perfectly healthy will see their blood sugars like hang out in the 50s, especially like
Okay.
overnight. So, like, yeah,
That's
like if you do a 24-hour fast and your body's used to eating, sure, you might get a little hangry, you might get a little shaky, you might get a little bit of a headache. All of these things can happen
yep.
when you do a fast. But the key is just to, stay hydrated, making sure you're drinking lots of fluids during that time. But, it's cool that when you don't have diabetes, your body is very good at regulating your blood sugar.
Okay.
So if it starts to drop too low, your body will release a little gluconeogenesis happens and you release a little sugar. So you'll be level and fine. So no, if you hit 60, you don't need to be like shoving
Right.
sugar in to bring your blood sugar back up.
Right.
It's not
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's so interesting to me. The body is built to survive, right?
it is. It
Um,
is.
I love that. So, all right. Yeah, so I'd love to dig in a little bit more around that topic of the microbiome and gut bacteria. So interesting. And honestly, Angela, I heard that the first time from you years ago when we worked together, and it always has stuck with me, and it's so fascinating. And now we are seeing on the market some probiotics that are specifically targeting blood sugar control, which is fascinating to me. So I'd love to get a little bit more insight around, the role that the gut bacteria actually plays in the development and or treatment of diabetes, or is that kind of another myth?
Yeah, no, it's not a myth at all. Like, really, gut bacteria is where it's at. Sometimes I talk about it so much that I feel like, gosh, this patient isn't going to think I care about them. They only think I care about their gut bacteria
Right.
because everything is like, how do we support the gut bacteria?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, there are some so that I know I have no vested interest in these companies, but
Yeah.
Pendulum is a company that actually makes the Acromancia. So I've been dying to do this. I just haven't yet, but I would love to see like a GI map before and then have somebody do the pendulum for a couple months and then do
Yeah.
after and just kind of see what happens. Because in a lot of my diabetes patients, when we do a GI map, their acromancia just is not even present. It's
Oh,
below the
interesting. Okay,
detectable
so
level.
GI map measures that particular species.
Yeah, you can see it on the GI map. So,
Fascinating.
um,
Okay.
yeah, so that's really interesting to see. And so, yeah, pendulum is one of those things that has the acromancia, and that's the only one on the market at this point. I'm sure other people are scrambling to do it because it's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
So, here's something that people don't know about. I think that people don't know, but acromancia actually stimulates the GLP-1 production.
Okay.
So if you're like GLP-1, I know I've heard of that
Heard
before.
that
Well,
one.
it's the craze. Everybody's on Ozempic, Wegovy, all those GLP-1 receptor agonists. And I think, people don't realize we ourselves have control over this. If we fix our gut bacteria, if we have more good acromancia there,
Yeah.
and we make sure we're eating butyrate producing foods, we can actually stimulate our gut bacteria to help along our own, because we all make GLP-1. It's already there. We already have it. And eating healthy fats and fiber stimulate the release of GLP-1 naturally. So that's why when we're talking diabetes, we've got to make sure that people aren't doing fat-free or, too low
Oh,
fat.
right.
We need those healthy fats. So we've got to bump up the healthy fat production as well, or healthy fat consumption, as well as the fiber consumption as well, because, again, our gut bacteria helps regulate these really cool things that we could be paying very expensive amounts of money every month and taking a shot, or we could, have our body do it naturally.
Right. Okay. So interesting. So, all right. So the fiber, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, I think one of the things that people assume is that they need to cut the carbs, right? And
Right.
if you're cutting the carbs, well, I suppose unless you're eating tons of vegetables, right? Like I think people innately know that eating vegetables is a good thing.
Yeah.
Is that the fiber source that you're talking about? Or tell me a little bit more about kind of your philosophy there, and how can patients get enough fiber while trying to control their blood sugar?
Yeah. So I think the first step is just, and this is the first step I take with every patient, is just trying to add extra vegetables. And we start only with lunch and dinner. Some patients, I will just start with dinner.
Yeah. Okay.
And we try to cover half the plate with the non-starchy. My goal is to try to get each patient up to about 10 grams of fiber per meal to
Okay.
start. So the cool thing, again, is we can do that with healthy fats, like our chia seeds, our ground flax seeds. Those can easily be snuck into
Okay.
some of our higher fiber carbohydrates. And I think that's another myth with, at least 20 years ago when I started in diabetes education, we used to teach a carb is a carb is a carb.
Right.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
no way. That is not true. Like, that is not true. A carb is not a carb. So non-starchy vegetables are still carbohydrates. They just have lower amount. We
Right.
need to be choosing fruits that are high in antioxidants and polyphenols. A lot of times they're saying, oh, get rid of fruits. Well,
Yeah.
they have fiber, and you can choose the higher fiber ones like the berries.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to educating our patients on quality is what's most important when it comes to carbohydrates, and making sure they're choosing the ones that have the dietary fiber in.
Okay. So what about oatmeal and beans?
Yeah. Oats are fine.
Okay.
It's what people do with the oats.
Just wondering, like, trying to help people kind of sift through, because honestly, I hear people confused all the time, right? Like a friend of mine was just saying, "Oh my God, so now I can't," I mean, it's like, what's left? What, I can't cut out anything else. That's kind of her feeling and philosophy, right?
Right.
And like, there's nothing else to cut out, Leslie, is what she's telling me. And it's just super interesting, because I think what triggered that was well, trying to control her blood sugar. And I think she was referring to like the lectins. Like, oh my God, now I gotta get rid of those, because I've trying to heal her gut. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like, I don't buy into it. It's not because I don't believe it's not helpful for some
Yeah.
people, but unless you can prove otherwise. So, like, if she's using a CGM and she eats oats for breakfast that are not overly coated with sugar,
Right. There you go.
has a good breakfast where there's a healthy fat involved, the fiber's there.
Mhm.
And if she can watch her CGM and it's a flat little line, then you know what? That's her answer. Because the path that she's currently heading down, which is a red flag, which you heard her say, is, gosh, what can I eat? There's nothing I can eat
Right.
anymore.
That's
When
how she
people
started.
get that, yeah, when people get frustrated and desperate, like, okay, well, what do I do? That's when they're just like, to hell with it.
Right.
And they give it all up. So I think, as healthcare professionals, yeah, we can say, ooh, yeah, probably shouldn't be eating dairy, or, oh, hey, maybe you shouldn't be eating gluten, or you shouldn't be,
Right.
we could do that all day long with patients. But, let's try to be as least restrictive as possible so that we can set them up for success.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I felt so bad. She's like, what? Do I give up my 3 crackers that I eat a couple times? My 3, seed-based crackers? I'm like, I don't don't think so. I
No.
don't think you have to do that. I think you're good.
Yeah,
Right? Okay. Super
exactly.
interesting. Okay. Okay, let's talk about a common, at least back in the day, like when I went to school, this was a common term, brittle diabetes. Do we
Yeah.
still hear that? Is that
Crazy enough, we do. And it's nuts. And that
what is
word,
it? And where did this word come from?
it's a terrible word for a number of reasons. Number one, this label is put on patients when they have a lot of glucose variability.
Okay.
And supposedly no one can figure out why. So that now what happens is the patient walks around with this label smacked on their forehead of I'm brittle. So that's just what they believe. There's nothing I can do. They lose all power to control their diabetes when that label is put on them. Now, granted, it's given more to people with type 1 diabetes.
Mhm.
But to be honest, people with type 1 diabetes can benefit from some of these food changes that we're talking about. A lot of the stuff is geared more towards type 2, but a lot of the concepts are beneficial to type 1. And let's be honest, they're just beneficial to all of us, whether we have
Right.
diabetes or not. But that label gets put on people and then they think that they can't, there's nothing that they can do about it, and
Mm,
that is a disservice.
right.
I hate that word, because I have not found a person yet that has crazy fluctuations in sugar that we can't figure out why it's happening and fix it. It's just, that's not necessary. So if you ever have somebody come to you with brittle diabetes and they feel at a loss, you definitely have your work cut out for you, but no, you can help them. You can provide education. And a lot of that education is more around insulin and how it works with food, and having a deeper understanding of what food choices are going to give them the best results and when to time that insulin
Mm,
properly in order to get the best results.
okay. All right. Interesting. Can't believe that word's still around.
I know.
Honestly, like, yeah, it's kind of bizarre. Let's talk a little bit about, well, I'd love to know, are you integrating CGMs into your practice with patients? So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that.
Like, CGMs to me just make life worth living. Like, I love them. Like, I know this sounds so nerdy, but like there's nothing that I love more than looking at continuous glucose monitor reports and comparing them to my patients' photo food logs. I also love when they're on an insulin pump. Like, I work a lot with type 1 people as well,
Mhm.
to look at the reports and to look at the insulin and to look at the, oh my gosh, it's a dream come true. And I think I'm so excited about it because I remember the days of looking at individual finger sticks,
Oh
like
my
people are
gosh.
checking their sugar 10 times a day trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But yeah, the CGM is a dream come true, and it gives patients that knowledge, and that knowledge is absolute power for them, because now they're not stuck with, yeah, I went to the diabetes educator and they said I could only eat 50 grams of carbs or 20 grams
Oh,
of carbs
right.
per meal. Now the patient gets to figure it out. So we provide carb awareness, like, okay, these are carbohydrate foods. You can look at the grams, but let's see, what is your carb tolerance? So they can see what they ate. They can
Mhm.
see how high their blood sugar goes. And then they can say, ooh, yeah, I might need to reduce. Or they think, oh, my sugar didn't hardly go up at all. And I ate
Yep.
50 carbs at that meal. So it really gives them good feedback on how their body is able to process their carbohydrates. So, coolest thing ever.
Ever, right? I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I showed you. I have mine on still and I'm learning a ton and
Yeah.
just, really trying to manipulate things.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I think I shared with you this morning, I had this really delicious oatmeal bake. It's so good, but admittedly it's got eggs in it, oatmeal, like one egg per cup of oatmeal, almond milk, and it does have some syrup in it. And bananas on the bottom and walnuts and blueberries on the top. It's really good. But
Awesome.
I do spike. So today I thought, well, I really like this. I really kind of don't want to give it up. All right, I could ditch the maple syrup next time. I'm okay with that. But I thought I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna take like a teaspoon of nut butter and eat that first. And lo and behold, it did help.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like, whoo, steep spike, it was, it was a little more of a curve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A little more doable. Yeah. So
always fat before carbs. That really could, like you said, that can help stop that spike and
right.
down a little bit.
Right. Now, what about, we haven't talked about exercise. So I'm curious. So like if someone eats something and they pretty much know they're going to get a spike, can you mitigate the spike before it happens by walking?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I would assume you can. Like I used to think no, because it happens too quickly. But it isn't instant. It's not instantaneous, which is it honestly, it takes a little longer than I would have thought before you see the spike.
Everybody is a little bit different.
Okay.
So my mom wears a CGM. This is kind of a funny story. If she goes out to dinner and she comes home and she sees her CGM starting to go up,
Yeah.
she will walk around outside for like 10 minutes or so
Yeah.
until she sees it level off and start to come down, and then she'll go inside.
But the daughter of a diabetes dietitian, right? Oh my God.
But like, I'm just saying, I never told her to do that. Like,
really?
I've taught exercise helps. It's a good idea to move after a meal, even like 10 minutes. So but she does it. Like she is hardcore, and she uses her CGM.
Okay.
She's like, sometimes it'll just be flat, but sometimes it'll go up. So if she sees it, I mean, she gets out there and she moves. But I like to tell people, cardio, like walking, jogging, dancing, whatever, is good for that immediate drop in blood sugar.
Okay.
Weight training helps kind of prolong your blood sugar to be down over longer periods of time. So that's why both are really important in diabetes. So making sure that you're strengthening the muscles as well as, burning that quick sugar with the carb.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And it's, I mean, as we get older, so important to include the strength, right?
Yeah.
Like so many people don't. So
well, and a quick public service announcement for anybody that's on a GLP-1, start weight training this second. You have to weight train immediately, because what people do when they start taking the GLP, no appetite, or they feel nauseous. So what do people eat when they feel nauseous? Crackers, right? So they're eating carbs that doesn't have a lot of protein, not a lot of fat. And the problem is now they're not getting enough nutrition. They start wasting muscle. And now they have the same amount of fat in their body as ever, but now they're losing their metabolically active muscle. So I tell my patients, making sure you're getting about, at least 15, 20 grams of protein per meal. If you're going to be on the GLP-1, try to get small, which is like a couple ounces. It's not that much. And make sure you're weight training. So important.
Okay. I want to, just for our audience, can you define the GLP-1, just so everyone's clear on what that means?
Yeah, so the GLP-1 is just a hormone that you inject into your body. Our body already makes this hormone, and the hormone does a couple different things. Number one, it can tell you, hey, stop eating. It can also stimulate your pancreas to produce insulin. It can slow down gastric emptying. So it slows down how quickly your food from your stomach gets released into the bloodstream. And those are the ways that it actually helps people lose weight and helps people with diabetes.
Okay. So is this a new medication then that lots of people are getting?
I mean, it's been around forever. I feel like it's been around probably 15, 20, at least 15 years at this point. But it used to be called Bitel. People had to take a shot like twice a day before they, then it got to once a day. And then now it's once a week. And now we also have pills. So it's not just in shot form. People can take pills. And this is like, it went nuts on social media. I think some famous people took it and lost some weight. And then they said, oh, this is what I took. And so like everyone, whether they had diabetes or not, is going to their doctor and saying, give me this drug. But again, this is something you can stimulate in your body naturally by eating healthier.
So interesting. So it's probably a rhetorical question then, but I'll ask it anyway. Should most everybody with diabetes be on a GLP-1? I think I know the answer, but
So I'm all about, using tools that are necessary. So like if someone has not been able to move, their blood sugars are high, they have a lot of weight to lose, by all means, let's do anything and everything we can to help them, and let's give them a GLP-1. But while they're taking it, we're teaching healthy behaviors, how to teach the body to maximize its own GLP-1. And then once they've lost a significant amount of weight, then they start an exercise program. So the GLP-1 is kind of that crutch that helps people get to the point where they can do it on their own. I have not seen a lot of people come off the GLP-1 and maintain that weight loss, because those behaviors that I'm talking about are not ever happening. So I've seen people lose insurance coverage, they go off the GLP-1 and the weight comes right back. And it's because they didn't change anything with their diet or activity. So, I don't think, like, if you're pre-diabetes or whatever, like, if you can make a couple of these little changes, not be overly restrictive and still see some results, then maybe you wait a little while on rushing to the doctor.
Like you're better off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, I realize that we have some questions here and comments. So let's take a peek. So people and doctors forget to consider adjusting the medication dosage. I'm sure you see that a lot, Angela, right?
Yeah. And that goes back to that trauma. Like the second somebody gets a crazy low blood sugar and they're like shaking, sweaty, and they feel that scares them to death.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to do that again. So yes, I completely agree that we have to adjust the medicine. And that's where, as dietitians, we're spending more time with these patients and we see them more often. So that's why I think we need to be more proactive with talking about this and helping them with the adjustments.
This is a great question. I don't know who asked this because I can't see your name, but I'm so glad. Can you see that question, Angela?
What can people do to support their acromantia, especially if they don't want to stay on pendulum long term? Great. If you email me, I'll send you my handout that I give to patients, but I have a how to increase acromantia handout, and onions, raw asparagus, chicory root, artichoke, dandelion root, cold potatoes. Yeah, all of those things help increase fatty fish, all those things, really good for acromantia.
Wow. Okay. Super cool. Yeah, because pendulum looks great, but it's not the cheapest product.
Yeah, I keep checking the price. It looks like it's down like $49 if you
it's down to what?
$49 if you
Oh.
have a subscription, like you have to keep getting it. But I think you can pause or cancel that. But yeah, it used to be 100 something, and I was like, how are people?
Honestly, I just looked on FullScript and I thought it was $150 a bottle.
Oh, I went to their website.
Okay.
Just to see. But maybe I was wrong. I don't know. But it is pricey.
Right. You're probably right. But it's very interesting. I'm pretty sure. Now, guys, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. I thought, wow, that for most people is not going to be doable, right? At that price point. So are there any other probiotics that you know of that have this species in it?
I don't know of any that have the acromantia. Like there's other species that are good for diabetes. So there's other probiotics.
Acromantia is what we really want.
Yeah, but we can do it with food. So focusing on those higher fiber vegetables, those fatty fish, that all of those are helpful.
Okay. I'd love to get your handout.
Yeah.
You want to email it to me? That would be great.
For sure.
And I know we're starting to run low on time, but I got a couple more questions here. So, Angela, I know in your work, you really take like a functional approach to helping people with diabetes, right?
Yep.
Which I think is so, so cool. So this question kind of piggybacks on that. What GI map test do you use? And if you could elaborate just a little bit on, what else you do in your work that, kind of makes your approach different in terms of including, looking at things from that integrative functional space.
Right. So the GI map that I use is usually the diagnostic solutions. I've tried the gut zoomer on myself. It's a lot. Once you get used to reading one, like
Yeah,
you just kind of want to stick with it. So I
yeah,
don't have anything against the gut zoomer, but there's just once it's just an
yeah,
old way of thinking. I don't know.
right.
But so the things that I do is I think about, okay, when someone's had high blood sugar for a long period of time, what has that done to their body? For example, one thing that we know high blood sugar does is it decreases levels of magnesium. And
Mhm.
we know that magnesium is really good support for insulin resistance and blood sugar in general.
Mhm.
So if I have somebody who's had high blood sugar for a extended period of time, or drinks alcohol, or is under a lot of stress,
Mhm.
magnesium is one of those things where we'll supplement for a while, but then I'm also teaching, hey, make sure we got our leafy greens, the nuts and seeds, like these are all high in magnesium. So I try to teach them through diet. So we use the supplements temporarily to kind of help restore, and then people just use stuff like that as they need it. But that's one example.
That's a great example. Okay, and obviously, well, let me ask you, how often are you doing the GI map testing? Is that for most people, or like how do you decide?
I usually let people decide. Like
Okay.
when I'm talking about the gut bacteria so much, sometimes they're just like, "Well, how do you even know?"
Right.
And I say, "Well, there's a way we can look at it. It's a stool
Okay.
test you can do at home." So I usually let them decide, but honestly, I let the person guide me.
Yeah.
So I do what I feel is best for that person, and as long as we're seeing improvements and we see blood sugar start to come down and they're starting to come off medicines, I mean, I know we're moving in the right direction. If I see if we have some stickiness with blood sugar where we're just not seeing it come down as much,
Yeah.
that's when I might say, hey, let's do a GI map. Or they just say, hey, I want to see what's living in my gut. And I say, okay, let's do it.
All right. And are you still looking at A1C?
Oh, always,
Okay.
always.
So that's still
Um,
kind of your one of your key markers that you
yeah,
think.
along with the CGM. I mean,
Yeah,
it's definitely
CGM,
something that
but
I look at.
also the A1C.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. I just wondered if anything had shifted there.
No,
Lots of things changed. Okay, so that one's still there, still being
still
used.
there. It'll probably always be there. It'll just be one of our little measure. It's one little way to measure.
Okay. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, time flies, right? This was every bit as awesome as I had hoped. And even more so, to be honest. So, any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share? Oh, and I don't want to forget. Um, oh, actually, okay. So we do have. All right. We have a question. What is their email to get the handout?
Okay, the
So we
email
want
is
to make
pretty
sure we
simple.
tell people where to go.
Yeah, and just send me an email, Angela@outsmartyourdiabetes.com.
Okay. Great.
Um,
And your
so
website is outsmartyourdiabetes.com. Angela
yeah,
has a gorgeous website. I'm in love with her brand and her website. So fun. So go ahead and check her out there. Buy her book on Amazon. I think that would be a great addition to any professional, practitioner's library. And drop her an email so you can grab that report. Is there anything else that we want to share? Kind of final words of wisdom, final recommendations, anything
yeah.
else?
I mean, I think the best thing with diabetes is because we're getting to the point where so many people have it or are going to have it. We have to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Don't get sucked in by all the stuff.
Okay.
Start with the basics and start with the food. And it does not have to be overly restrictive. We're good at this. We're good at listening to our clients. So listen to their challenges, listen to how their life is, and start with little bitty things. Because I would say the biggest thing that people tell me is, Angela, I felt like I was doing little things, and before I knew it, everything had changed. And so it felt effortless. And I think that's important as we try to keep it simple for patients. The
Okay.
last thing is I'm working on a CE program for healthcare professionals, where we work together for 12 weeks. I know it seems like a long time, but it's kind of a diabetes deep dive, where we look at case studies.
All right.
People even get a 45-minute one-on-one session with me if you want to dive into case studies. So as soon as I get the continuing education all set up, I'll probably kick that off maybe in June, July time period. So if you're interested, send me an email about that and I'll make sure you're on my wait list, so that, maybe we could do a bit of a mastermind together. So
That
again,
would
my
be
website, outsmartyourdiabetes.com, and my email is Angela at outsmartyourdiabetes.com.
Yeah, and we have one last question. I think someone missed what they're going to get if we send you an email.
So people were asking about akkermansia. Like, I have a handout that I give patients on how to increase their akkermansia and their butyrate. So if you want that handout, just send me an email and I'll send it to you.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Oh my gosh, so good. So much fun. Amazing to see you. And guys, I forgot to mention that Angela's in Alaska. And how many feet of snow do you guys have?
Oh, we got more today. It's like 5 feet out there still. It's supposed to be
Make
spring.
it stop, right?
Yeah.
Make it stop.
Please.
Now, Angela, you're originally from Illinois, if I remember, right?
Yeah.
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 So you're a
Midwest now.
Midwesterner that relocated out in the wild, wild West, right? The
For
wild
sure.
Northwest.
Northwest. Yeah.
Very far Northwest, which is amazing. But yeah, I hope things thaw for you soon. Finally, it's gorgeous here in Wisconsin. Yay, we've got like 70-degree weather today. You can hear the birds chirping. So happy about that. We're headed to Minneapolis tomorrow to visit my daughter and super excited about that. We do have a thaw in Minneapolis too. I think it's going to hit 70 there as well. So anyway, all right, guys, it was awesome to see you and chat with you all today. Thank you again, Angela. I really, really am so grateful for your time and really your willingness to take time out of your day and share your wisdom with us. Really appreciate it. All right, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. Love it. Okay, guys, have an awesome rest of your day and a great weekend. And already looking forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.